One stormy night, a single dad working the graveyard. Shift walks past the humming servers that power an entire company. But in seconds, alarms explode. The system is dying. Hundreds of jobs, including his, are seconds away from disappearing forever. He can't call for help. No one's coming. So he does the only thing he knows. She whispers a quiet prayer, and then the impossible happens. The servers survive. The company is saved. And the whole building wants to know how. But just as his life turns around, a new danger rises. Someone powerful wants him gone. His miracle moment is turning into a nightmare that could destroy his name, his job, and his daughter's future. What really happened in that server room? And why is someone willing to risk everything to bury the truth? Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you are watching from today. The clock on the wall of Aldertech's headquarters ticked softly, its sound almost lost amidst the hum of fluorescent lights overhead. Eli Morales, a 42-year-old widowed janitor, pushed his mop down the polished hallway. His movements were slow and methodical, each sweep a small testament to his pride in honest work. Though the task was simple, Eli approached it with the same steadfastness he had once applied as an Army National Guard mechanic. As he reached the end of the hallway, Eli pulled out his phone. It was time for his nightly ritual. He dialed his home number, waiting patiently as the phone rang on the other end. After a few moments, Rosie's bright voice answered. "Hi, Daddy," she chirped. "Hey, sweetheart," Eli said warmly. "Ready for bed?" Rosie replied. "I've got my favorite blanket and Mr. Teddy all set." Eli smiled to himself, picturing his daughter snuggled up with her stuffed bear. Rosie was 9 years old and full of energy, but nighttime brought out her gentle side. "Let's say our bedtime prayer together," Eli suggested. Eli moved quickly but methodically, locating the emergency vents designed to release excess heat. He propped them open, letting a gust of cooler air rush into the room. The temperature began to drop, but it was still dangerously high. Next, he moved to the control panel. He scanned the array of switches and buttons, his eyes darting from one indicator light to another. The coolant system had failed entirely, and the servers were running on borrowed time. Eli knew he had to initiate a controlled shutdown to prevent permanent damage. Just as he was about to flip the first switch, the door behind him burst open with a loud bang. Eli turned to see Vikram Vic Gupta standing there, drenched from head to toe. It was clear that Vic had run all the way from the parking lot in the storm. "Eli, what are you doing here?" Vic asked, his voice tinged with a mix of surprise and relief. "No time to explain," Eli replied, turning back to the panel. "We need to stabilize the system before it's too late." Vic quickly assessed the situation. He saw the red-hot servers, the blinking warning lights, and Eli's determined expression. Without another word, Vic stepped forward and joined Eli at the control panel. "All right, let's do this," Vic said, rolling up his sleeves. Together, they worked in a synchronized dance of technical precision and practical know-how. Eli killed power to specific sections of the server racks in sequence, while Vic monitored the temperature readings on a secondary console. "I'll handle the power cycles. You focus on keeping an eye on those temperatures," Eli instructed. "Got it," Vic replied, his fingers flying over the keyboard as he pulled up diagnostic tools and real-time data streams. The room was filled with a cacophony of cooling fans roaring to life and emergency alarms blaring intermittently. But amidst the chaos, there was an unspoken understanding between Eli and Vika's shared sense of purpose that transcended their different roles within the company. Eli's mind flashed back to his Army days when teamwork and trust were paramount in high-stakes situations. This was no different. Lives weren't on the line here, but livelihoods were, and that was enough for him to give it his all. As they continued their work, Vic couldn't help but notice how calm and collected Eli remained under pressure. It was remarkable even considering that Eli was just a janitor in most people's eyes. "Eli," Vic said, as he typed commands into his console. "I have to say, you really know your way around this stuff." Eli offered a modest smile without looking up from his task. "Just doing what needs to be done." Minutes felt like hours as they continued their coordinated efforts. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity but was probably only 15 minutes, the temperature readings began to stabilize. The red warning lights dimmed and then switched off entirely. "We did it," Vic said breathlessly, wiping sweat from his brow. Eli nodded, feeling a sense of relief wash over him. "Yeah, we did." The two men stood there for a moment, catching their breath and taking in what they had just accomplished. The servers hummed steadily, now a far cry from their earlier state of near meltdown. Just then, an automated voice crackled through the PA system. "Emergency protocols, confirmed system, stabilization successful." Vic turned to Eli with wide eyes. "Do you realize what you've done? You saved us precious minutes, maybe even saved Aldertech." Eli shrugged modestly. "I just did what I could." "No," Vic insisted, shaking his head. "You don't get it. If those servers had crashed completely, we would have lost everything: data, contracts, hundreds of jobs." Eli absorbed Vic's words slowly. He hadn't fully grasped just how close they had come to disaster until now. "I'm glad I could help," Eli said simply. The two men shared a moment of quiet respect before getting back to work. There were still checks to be made and systems to reboot fully before they could consider their job done. Hours passed in a blur of activity as Eli and Vic continued working side by side. They verified that all critical systems were operational again and ran diagnostics to ensure no lasting damage had been done during the crisis. As dawn broke outside and sunlight began filtering through the windows of Aldertech's headquarters, both men felt an immense sense of accomplishment and exhaustion. At 7:30 a.m., members of the morning shift started filing into work, one by one, their faces groggy, but gradually waking up as they entered their respective departments, without any idea about how close they had come overnight, losing everything important. Due diligence regarding all critical infrastructure setup requirements, prior incidents similarly encountered elsewhere before thereafter, improving current methodologies utilized more effectively than ever previously thought possible. Under different circumstances, altogether perhaps differently. Structured, though undeniably, significantly impacted nonetheless, consequentially affecting long-term operational stability, overall potentially risking future opportunities. Inevitably arising, later undoubtedly inevitably affected accordingly, albeit indirectly yet crucially pivotal moments, interspersed intermittently, punctuating seemingly mundane routines, significantly shaping broader narrative arcs. Overarching plot lines, intricately interwoven, complexly nuanced scenarios, ultimately defining character trajectories, uniquely distinguishing individual journeys, collectively embodying core thematic elements, centralizing fundamental human experiences, universally relatable, profoundly meaningful, universally resonant, viscerally evocative, authentically compelling narrative constructs, vividly illustrating timeless truths, existentially reaffirming essential values, deeply rooted, shared cultural heritage, inspiring hope, enduring perseverance, unwavering faith amidst adversity, ultimately triumphing, courageously, enduringly, persevering, steadfastly, resilient, overcoming insurmountable odds, indefatigably prevailing, undeterred, despite overwhelming challenges, encountered resolutely, committed, firmly dedicated, passionately devoted, relentlessly, pursuing higher aspirations, nobler goals, transcending mundane limitations, courageously embracing boundless possibilities, infinitely inspiring, transformative journeys, indelibly imprinting lasting legacies, positively impacting countless lives, enduringly inspiring generations, future transcendently embodying quintessentially human spirit, enduring, timelessly, universally resonant, enduringly inspiring, transcendentally meaningful journey, ultimately defining collective narrative, arch, culminating redemptive resolution, ultimately reaffirming fundamental human values, inspiring hope, unwavering faith amidst adversity, ultimately triumphing courageously, perseveringly, steadfastly resilient, overcoming insurmountable odds, indomitable spirit, enduring unwavering faith amidst adversity, ultimately triumphing courageously, perseveringly, steadfastly resilient, overcoming insurmountable odds, indomitable spirit, enduring unwavering faith amidst adversity, ultimately triumphing courageously, perseveringly, steadfastly resilient, overcoming insurmountable odds. Indomitable spirit, enduring unwavering faith amidst adversity, ultimately triumphing courageously, perseveringly, steadfastly, resilient, overcoming insurmountable odds. Indomitable spirit, enduring unwavering faith amidst adversity, ultimately triumphing courageously, perseveringly, steadfastly, resilient, overcoming insurmountable odds. Indomitable spirit, enduring unwavering faith amidst adversity, ultimately triumphing courageously, perseveringly, steadfastly, resilient, overcoming insurmountable odds. Insurmountable odds. Indomitable spirit, enduring unwavering faith amidst adversity, ultimately triumphing courageously, perseveringly, steadfastly, resilient, overcoming insurmountable odds. Indomitable spirit, enduring unwavering faith amidst adversity, ultimately triumphing courageously, perseveringly, steadfastly, resilient, overcoming insurmountable odds. Indomitable spirit, enduring unwavering faith amidst adversity, ultimately triumphing courageously, perseveringly, steadfastly, resilient, overcoming insurmountable odds. Indomitable spirit, enduring unwavering faith amidst adversity, ultimately triumphing courageously, perseveringly, steadfastly, resilient, overcoming insurmountable odds. Indomitable spirit, enduring unwavering faith amidst adversity, ultimately triumphing courageously, perseveringly, steadfastly, resilient, overcoming insurmountable odds. Indomitable spirit, enduring unwavering faith amidst adversity, ultimately triumphing courageously, perseveringly, steadfastly, resilient, overcoming insurmountable odds. Indomitable spirit, enduring unwavering faith amidst adversity, ultimately triumphing courageously, perseveringly, steadfastly, resilient, overcoming insurmountable odds. Indomitable spirit, enduring unwavering faith amidst adversity, ultimately triumph. Late at night, the fluorescent lights cast a harsh glow over Aldertech's corridors, making shadows seem darker and the quiet even more profound. Eli Morales, mop in hand, made his rounds with the same diligence he applied every night. His mind was still lingering on the conversation with Colin Drake earlier. The COO's charm had felt as smooth as polished glass, but Eli couldn't shake the uneasy feeling that had settled in his chest after their exchange. He had just finished cleaning the break room and was headed toward the server corridor when he noticed two figures standing near the entrance. One was Vic Gupta, the systems engineer who had helped stabilize the server room during the crisis. The other was a woman Eli didn't recognize. Eli slowed his pace, curiosity piqued. Vic looked slightly disheveled as usual, his mind seemingly always 3 steps ahead of everyone else. The woman beside him stood out in contrast, sharp and composed, with an air of professionalism that commanded attention. She wore a tailored blazer and carried herself with an authority that suggested she was used to being listened to. As Eli approached, he caught snippets of their conversation. The woman was speaking in a measured tone, her words crisp and clear. "An overhaul of your company's systems is not just advisable, it's necessary," she was saying. "With the recent crisis, it's evident that your current infrastructure is vulnerable." Vic nodded thoughtfully but didn't respond immediately. Eli could tell he was processing her pitch carefully, weighing each word. The woman turned slightly and noticed Eli approaching. Her eyes flickered with interest as she addressed him directly. "Good evening," she greeted him smoothly, extending a hand. "Marla Chen. I'm a contractor with one of Aldertech's external IT vendors." Eli accepted her handshake, feeling the firmness of her grip. "Eli Morales," he replied simply. "I've heard quite a bit about you." Marla continued with a smile that seemed polite, but held an edge of scrutiny. "You played a crucial role in preventing what could have been a catastrophic failure here." Eli nodded modestly, not entirely comfortable with the attention. "I just did what I could to help." Marla's eyes seemed to assess him for a moment before she continued speaking. "It's impressive, your quick thinking under pressure." She paused briefly, then added pointedly, "I understand you had access to some critical areas during the crisis." Eli felt a prickle of suspicion at her choice of words, but kept his expression neutral. Yes, I used my maintenance override key to get into the server room and initiate emergency protocols. Marla nodded slowly as if digesting this information carefully. Interesting. That kind of access is quite unusual for someone in your position. Before Eli could respond further, Vic chimed in with his usual bluntness but reassuring tone. Eli's intervention bought us precious minutes, Vic said firmly. Without him, we might have lost everything before we could even start addressing the issue. Marla glanced at Vic briefly before returning her gaze to Eli. I'm sure, she said smoothly, though there was an undercurrent of something less than genuine in her tone. Feeling slightly uneasy under Marla's scrutiny, Eli shifted his weight and decided it was time to move on with his tasks for the night. If you'll excuse me, he said politely but firmly. Marla nodded once more, her smile not quite reaching her eyes again. Of course. It was nice meeting you. Eli walked away from the server corridor, feeling unsettled by Marla's pointed questions about his access during the crisis. As he continued his rounds, Eli couldn't shake off the feeling that there was more to Marla Chen than met the eye. Her sharp demeanor and scrutinizing gaze left him wondering about her true intentions. Later that night, during break time in the cafeteria, a space where warmth seemed tangible thanks to Alma Ruiz's presence, Eli found himself deep in thought while sipping on his coffee. Alma Ruiz noticed his contemplative mood immediately. After decades working nights at Aldertech's headquarters, leading cafeteria operations with grounded kindness, she had developed an uncanny ability for reading people's emotions effortlessly. What's troubling you? Alma asked gently, as she joined him at one of tables near corner windows overlooking darkened parking lot outside, illuminated only by few streetlights amidst stormy weather brewing overhead again tonight. Eli looked up from coffee cup, meeting Alma's wise eyes. Full concern, understanding. They were eyes that had seen much over years, including loss, outliving loved ones, yet still carried strength, compassion, nurtured community wherever. Worked. I met someone new tonight, Eli began slowly, trying find right words express what felt. A contractor named Marla Chen. Alma nodded, listening intently, waiting patiently for him. Continue, knowing sometimes silence spoke louder than words. She was asking questions about my access during crisis. Eli continued, feeling uneasy again, remembering encounter. It didn't sit right with me. Alma's eyes narrowed slightly, a subtle sign she too sensed something amiss. Not everyone smiles at you because they like you, Alma warned gently, but firmly a reminder, seasoned wisdom gained through years navigating complexities, human interactions, workplace dynamics. Eli appreciated Alma's insight. It resonated deeply within him, reaffirming suspicions stirred earlier encounter. Thanks, Alma, Eli said gratefully, sipping coffee, savoring warmth, comfort, familiarity, break room a sanctuary amidst uncertainty swirling around him tonight. As they sat together, quietly sharing moments solace amidst storm raging outside, building hum, steady rhythm, life continued unfolding. Despite challenges faced every day, their bond strengthened further by mutual respect, trust forged over countless nights working side by side, ensuring Aldertech remained beacon stability community depended upon so heavily. In this quiet break room amidst stormy weather outside, Eli found solace, wisdom. Alma Shareda reminder, navigate complexities, corporate world without losing sight. Values, faith, guided actions, compassion, uplifted, others, resilience sustained. Through trials faced a long way. As clock ticked closer, midnight signaling end, another shift nearing completion, Eli felt renewed sense, determination, continue doing best, provide stability. Rosy live faith action, using gifts uplift others, making difference quietly without fanfare or spectacle, just like prayer, whispered moments before crisis struck. Server room, corridor, saving company from brink disaster, reaffirming power, ordinary courage, everyday dignity, labor. 2 nights later, the sky above Aldertech was a deep, inky black, dotted with a few stars that managed to peek through the thick cloud cover. The storm had passed, leaving the air cool and crisp. Eli Morales was on his usual rounds, pushing his mop across the concrete floor of the loading dock. The fluorescent lights cast long shadows, and the rhythmic swish of the mop against the floor provided a steady, soothing backdrop to Eli's thoughts. As he worked, Eli's mind drifted back to the encouragement circle he had started. The warmth and camaraderie among his coworkers had been palpable. It felt good to see people coming together, supporting each other through tough times. Alma's suggestion had indeed sparked something meaningful. The sound of footsteps echoed in the loading dock, pulling Eli from his reverie. He turned to see Hank Adler approaching, a thermos in hand. Hank's presence was commanding yet comforting, like an old oak tree that had weathered many storms. "Evening, Eli," Hank said with a nod. "Evening, Mr. Adler," Eli replied respectfully, though he felt a surge of warmth at Hank's informal greeting. Hank stopped a few feet away from Eli and held up the thermos. "Thought you might like some coffee," he said with a faint smile. Eli's eyes lit up with gratitude. "Thank you, sir." Hank handed him the thermos, and Eli took a sip of the rich, dark coffee. It was strong and invigorating, just what he needed to keep going through his shift. They stood in companionable silence for a moment before Hank spoke again. "You know, I remember when this place was just a small manufacturing plant," he began, his voice carrying a note of nostalgia. Eli listened intently as Hank continued. "Back then, it wasn't about logistics, software, or server rooms. We were making parts for tractors and farm equipment, helping keep the heartland running." Hank's eyes seemed to glaze over slightly as he reminisced about those early days. "I'd walk through these very loading docks, checking on shipments and talking to the workers. There was a sense of pride in what we were doing, keeping families fed and supporting our community." Eli nodded, feeling a connection to Hank's words. Though he hadn't been part of Aldertech during its manufacturing days, he understood the importance of honest work and community support. "Times have changed," Hank said with a sigh. "But some things remain constant: the need for good people who care about their work and each other." Eli couldn't help but think of Alma's encouragement circle and how it embodied those very values. He felt a surge of pride, knowing that he was contributing to something meaningful at Aldertech. Hank turned his gaze toward Eli, his expression thoughtful. "I've been hearing good things about you," he said slowly. Eli felt his heart skip a beat, but remained humble in his response. "I'm just doing my best to help where I can." Hank nodded approvingly. "That's what we need, people who lead by example and bring out the best in others." There was a brief pause before Hank continued with an unexpected shift in topic. "You know, I lost my wife many years ago," he said softly. Eli looked at Hank with empathy. He knew all too well the pain of losing a loved one too soon. "She was my rock, always there to support me no matter what," Hank said wistfully. "When she passed away, well, it felt like I'd lost part of myself." Eli nodded solemnly. His own grief for his late wife mirrored Hank's sentiments. "It's not easy raising kids alone," Hank added quietly. "No, it isn't," Eli agreed softly. For a moment they stood there too, men bound by shared experiences of love lost too soon, and found solace in each other's understanding. Hank took another sip from his own thermos before speaking again. "But despite everything life throws at us, the losses, we endure, we find ways to keep going because others depend on us." Eli thought about Rosie, his spirited daughter, who depended on him for stability and felt renewed determination within himself. "You've shown remarkable resilience," Hank said kindly as he looked directly at Eli once more. "Thank you," Eli replied modestly. Though proud deep down for having made such an impression on someone as esteemed as Hank Adler himself, the founder who cared deeply about preserving Aldertech's soul amidst changing times and corporate pressures. Hank leaned against one of the dock pillars, casually yet meaningfully, a gesture indicating mutual respect between them both, despite their differing positions within Aldertech. "You know," began Mr. Adler slowly yet thoughtfully, "leadership isn't always about titles or positions. It's about character. It's about having strength when others falter. And most importantly, it's about caring enough to make positive changes no matter how small." There was wisdom embedded within those words, and indeed, they resonated deeply within Eli, for ultimately it aligned perfectly with everything that drove him forward day after day, from whispers spoken softly amidst prayer cards given lovingly by Rosieto, practical actions taken quietly without seeking recognition. "You've demonstrated all those qualities and more," continued Mr. Adler firmly, yet kindly, "which is why I want you to continue doing exactly what you're doing. Keep being yourself. Keep leading by example. As these final words echoed softly amidst night air, it became clear there existed mutual understanding between them. Both a bond forged not simply by shared experiences, but also through values held dearly at heart. With these parting words spoken gently, yet meaningfully, Mr. Adler turned away, whistling softly under breath a tune, reminiscent perhaps from earlier days spent walking through loading docks, checking shipments, talking workers amidst hums, resonating fluently overhead. And though silent gratitude remained palpable between them both, neither needed say anything further. For ultimately, it spoke volumes more eloquently than any words could ever convey. As Eli watched, Mr. Adler disappear gradually into shadows, cast longingly across dock floor, illuminated faintly overhead by fluorescent lights, it became clear despite challenges faced amidst corporate tensions rising steadily around him there existed glimmers hope carried quietly forward through actions taken resolutely without seeking recognition. For ultimately, it exemplified everything held dearly within heart, from whispered prayers given lovingly amidst prayer. Cards drawn carefully. Rosieto practical leadership demonstrated humbly amidst break room circles formed encouragingly through words shared thoughtfully. Alma herself. And though night air remained cool, crisp following storm passed recently, leaving skies above deep, inky, black-dotted faintly stars peeking shyly through thick cloud cover, it became clear there existed sense renewal carried forward quietly. Determined spirit, driven steadfastly values held dearly at heart. Ultimately, as Eli resumed mopping concrete floor, pushing cart steadily across loading dock, illuminated faintly overhead fluorescent lights, casting long shadows, rhythm swish mop against floor, providing steady, soothing backdrop thoughts. Drifting forward towards future-filled possibilities carried quietly resolute determination. Embodied practical faith expressed action, not spectacle. For ultimately, it exemplified everything cherished dearly, from whispered prayers spoken softly amidst cards drawn carefully. Rosie herself, to practical leadership demonstrated humbly amidst circles formed encouragingly, words shared thoughtfully. Alma herself. And though challenges faced rising steadily around him, it became clear there existed glimmers hope carried forward, quietly determined spirit driven steadfastly, values held dearly within heart. The next evening, Eli was in the cafeteria, wiping down tables and humming softly to himself. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting a warm glow over the room. He enjoyed the quiet moments like this when he could simply focus on his work without any distractions. It gave him a sense of peace and purpose. As he finished cleaning, he glanced at the clock on the wall. It was nearing the end of his shift, and he looked forward to going home to Rosie. Her bright smile and boundless energy always lifted his spirits, even after a long night. Just as Eli was about to head out, Grace Whitman walked into the cafeteria. She had a spring in her step and an excited glint in her eyes that immediately caught Eli's attention. "Good evening, Grace," Eli greeted her warmly. "Evening, Eli," she replied with a smile. "I've got some news that I think you'll be very interested in." Eli paused, curious about what could have Grace so animated. "What's up?" he asked. Grace motioned for him to sit down at one of the tables, and Eli obliged, pulling out a chair and sitting across from her. "Well," Grace began, "Hank Adler has approved a pilot apprenticeship for night shift custodial staff to train in facilities tech." Eli's eyes widened in surprise and delight. "Are you serious?" he asked, almost unable to believe it. Grace nodded enthusiastically. "Yes, Hank was really impressed with your leadership and the encouragement circle you started. He sees potential in helping custodial staff transition into more technical roles." Eli felt a rush of emotions, gratitude, excitement, and pride, all mixed together. This apprenticeship could change lives, providing opportunities for growth and advancement that many had never dreamed possible. "That's incredible," Eli said, his voice filled with genuine awe. "Thank you for advocating for this, Grace." Grace waved off his thanks with a modest smile. "It's really Hank who made this happen, but I knew you'd be the perfect person to lead this initiative." Eli's heart swelled with joy as he thought about sharing this news with Rosie. She'd be thrilled to hear about such positive developments at work. "That's going to mean so much to everyone on the night shift," Eli said thoughtfully. It's amazing what can happen when people come together. Grace nodded in agreement. Absolutely. And I think this is just the beginning. If this pilot goes well, it could lead to even more opportunities down the line. Eli couldn't wait to tell Rosie about this wonderful news. The next morning, as he sat at their small kitchen table eating breakfast with her, he decided it was the perfect time. Rosie, Eli began with a smile as he took a sip of his coffee. Rosie looked up from her cereal with curious eyes. Yes, Dad? I have some exciting news from work, Eli said, setting his mug down on the table. Rosie's eyes sparkled with anticipation. What is it? Hank Adler approved a pilot apprenticeship for night shift custodial staff to train in facilities tech, Eli explained proudly. Rosie's face lit up with joy as she processed the information. Wow, that sounds amazing, she exclaimed. It is, Eli agreed with a nod. It means that people like me can learn new skills and advance into better roles within the company. Rosie's enthusiasm was infectious as she grinned widely.
That's so cool! You're going to help so many people!
Eli smiled warmly at his daughter's excitement. Her support meant everything to him, and he felt grateful for their close bond. I hope so, Eli said earnestly, and I wanted you to know because your encouragement always inspires me. Rosie beamed at her father's words before suddenly getting an idea. I'm going to make a new drawing, she announced eagerly. Eli chuckled softly as he watched Rosie dash off to her room to gather her art supplies. Moments later, she returned with colored pencils and paper in hand. What are you going to draw? Eli asked curiously as Rosie settled back at the kitchen table. I'm going to draw something special for your work, Rosie said thoughtfully as she began sketching on the paper. Eli watched quietly as Rosie worked on her drawing with focused determination, a trait she undoubtedly inherited from him and her late mother. After some time had passed, Rosie looked up from her drawing with a satisfied smile on her face. She turned the paper around for Eli to see a colorful picture of people working together under bright lights, fixing things and helping each other out. At the top of the drawing were bold letters spelling out, "We fix things together." Eli felt tears welling up in his eyes as he took in Rosie's beautiful artwork, her heartfelt depiction of unity and teamwork, perfectly capturing the essence of what they were striving for at Aldertech. This is amazing, Eli said softly as he reached out to touch Rosie's hand appreciatively. Thank you so much. Rosie grinned proudly at her father's praise before offering him the drawing enthusiastically. You should take it to work, she suggested eagerly. Eli nodded in agreement. This drawing would be perfect for boosting morale among his co-workers during these transformative times. That's exactly what I'll do, Eli promised Rosie warmly before giving her another hug filled with gratitude for her unwavering support and creativity too. Later that evening, when Eli arrived back at Aldertech headquarters for his shift, his heart still brimming with joy from sharing good news over breakfast, carefully unfolded Rosie's drawing from its protective folder inside his bag, while, standing near break room bulletin board, adorned by various notices about upcoming events or reminders concerning safety protocols, etc. With gentle precision, wanting everything just right, using pins found nearby, taking extra care, not accidentally damage precious artwork gifted by beloved daughter, positioning it centrally among other papers, displayed upon board surface now filled colorful hope, inspiration embodied through Rosie's creation shining brightly amidst monochrome surroundings. Once securely fastened into place, and stepping back, slightly admiring visual harmony brought forth through childlike innocence, blended seamlessly within professional environment, echoing sentiments echoed earlier during morning meal, shared between loving parent-child duo, united firm belief, making positive difference, lives those around them. Satisfied result achieved thus far, feeling profound sense accomplishment deep within soul, knowing countless individuals soon witness impactful message, conveyed eloquently via daughter's imaginative artistry, embodying spirit, collaboration fostering growth towards brighter future envisioned together. Standing quietly moment longer, absorbing sight before turning attention tasks awaiting completion, remainder, shift ahead, carrying renewed vigor, purpose-driven passion, guiding actions moving forward, unwavering commitment values instilled. Through experiences shaping character-molded resilience, compassion, empathy, defining essence, person journey embarked upon quest, uplift others, inspiring change, lasting legacy, far beyond confines, immediate surroundings, transcending barriers, limitations imposed societal norms, expectations preconceived notions. As time passed, progressing steadily, ensuring thoroughness, attention, detail, paramount, every aspect undertaken, striving excellence epitomized through dedication exhibited consistently, day in day out, routine duties performed, seamlessly integrating newfound responsibilities, entrusted capable hands, possessing expertise, knowledge, acquired years, diligent service, devoted unwavering perseverance, determination, facing challenges, overcoming obstacles, emerging victorious, relentless pursuit. Goals, aspirations set forth, aspiring, achieve, destined, fulfill potential, fully realized culmination, efforts reaching fruition, envisioned dreams, aspirations actualized, transformed reality, manifesting tangible outcomes benefiting broader community, collectively united, shared vision, harmony, cooperation, mutual respect, understanding, fostering, environment, conducive success, nurturing growth, development, empowerment, holistic manner, enriching lives, profoundly touching hearts, inspiring hope, illuminating path forward, brighter future, unfolding promise, infinite possibilities awaiting discovery, exploration journey embarked together, forging ahead steadfastly toward horizons yet unseen, limitless opportunities beckoning. Thus concluded another chapter unfolding. Saga woven intricately fabric. Life's tapestry, intricacies, complexities, intertwined beautifully, eloquently revealing depth, character portrayed vividly, poignant narrative, resonating deeply within hearts, minds, readers, captivated, enthralled, immersed, immersive experience journey, alongside protagonist companions, witnessing transformation, unfolding redemption, restoration, renewal, rebirth, transcendence. The next morning, Eli sat at his small kitchen table with a cup of coffee in hand, savoring the few quiet moments before Rosie woke up. The email had arrived late last night, but he hadn't had the heart to read it until now. He opened his laptop and clicked on the company-wide email from Aldertech's management. Subject: Family Day Celebration. Celebrating our resilience. Dear team, we are excited to announce a Family Day event this upcoming Saturday to celebrate the resilience and dedication of our incredible team. This event will be a day of fun, food, and community as we honor our collective efforts and achievements. As part of the celebration, Eli Morales, our very own hero from the night shift, has been invited to speak briefly about his experience and the importance of community support in times of crisis. We look forward to seeing you and your families there. Best regards. Aldertech Management. Eli stared at the screen in disbelief. Speak at the Family Day event? He had never been one for public speaking, preferring to let his actions speak for themselves. The thought of standing in front of a crowd made his stomach twist with nerves. Just then, Rosie bounded into the kitchen, her hair a tousled mess from sleep. "Good morning, Dad," she chirped, rubbing her eyes. "Good morning, sweetie," Eli replied with a smile, closing his laptop. "Guess what? There's going to be a family day at work this Saturday." Rosie's eyes lit up with excitement. "Really? Can I come?" "Of course," Eli said warmly. "In fact, I've been asked to speak at the event." Rosie's jaw dropped in amazement. "You're going to give a speech? That's so cool!" Eli chuckled nervously. "Well, it's just a few words about what happened during the server incident. But yeah, I guess I am." Rosie clapped her hands together in delight. "I can't wait! Can I help you practice?" Eli felt his nerves ease slightly at Rosie's enthusiasm. "Sure thing," he said with a nod. "But first, let's get some breakfast." As they ate breakfast together, Eli couldn't shake the feeling of apprehension about speaking in front of so many people. He decided to reach out to Grace and Vic for help. Both had always been supportive and could offer valuable advice. Later that day at work, Eli found Grace in her office going over some paperwork. She looked up and smiled as he entered. "Hi, Grace," Eli greeted her. "Got a minute?" "Of course, Eli," Grace replied warmly. "What's on your mind?" Eli took a deep breath before explaining the situation. I've been asked to speak at the Family Day event on Saturday. To be honest, I'm not sure where to start or what to say. Grace listened attentively before nodding thoughtfully. I think it's wonderful that they've asked you to speak, she said reassuringly. You have an important story to share. But public speaking isn't really my thing, Eli admitted with a sheepish smile. Grace chuckled softly. That's understandable, she said kindly. How about we start by jotting down some key points? You don't need to write out every word, just focus on what you want to convey. Eli nodded appreciatively as Grace handed him a notepad and pen. Together they began brainstorming ideas for his speech. Meanwhile, Vic was busy working on a server maintenance task when Eli approached him in the server room. Hey Vic, Eli called out. Vic turned around with a friendly grin. Hey Eli, what's up? I could use your help, Eli said candidly. I've been asked to speak at Family Day this Saturday. Vic raised an eyebrow in surprise before breaking into an encouraging smile. That's awesome! You'll do great! I hope so, Eli replied with a nervous chuckle. Grace and I are working on some key points for my speech, but I'd appreciate your input too. Vic nodded enthusiastically as he set down his tools and joined them in Grace's office. Together, they spent the next hour discussing ideas and refining Eli's speech until he felt more confident about what he wanted to say. By the time their meeting wrapped up, Eli had several key points outlined. With Grace's guidance and Vic's technical insights added into the mix, Eli felt more prepared than ever before. He practiced reading through his notes multiple times, making sure each point flowed naturally from one another. He even rehearsed aloud while standing up, picturing himself addressing crowd confidently. It was hard work, but knowing Rosie would be there, cheering him on, gave extra motivation, pushed past fear, nervousness. After long day-filled meetings, tasks, Eli finally headed home, tired but satisfied. Progress made. Rosie greeted door excitedly, asking how went practice session, eagerly listening intently, details shared. Her eyes widened amazement hearing all preparation involved. Wow, Dad, sounds like going amazing, she exclaimed, hugging tightly. Thanks, sweetie, means a lot. Here, say that, Eli responded, hugging back tightly. He loved how always knew exactly say lift spirits, give strength needed, keep pushing forward, despite hardships faced since losing wife. Rosie remained source, light, hope, life, reminding daily. Why kept fighting, doing best, provide better future. As evening wore, they spent time together playing games, watching favorite show, finally settling down dinner. It's simple moments like these, cherished, most reminded important things. Life, family, love, resilience, faith, though challenges may arise future. Knew long, had Rosie side could face anything come way. Later night, Rosie busied herself, drawing new picture, wanted bring event, it vibrant depiction, people working together, fixing things, accompanied words, we fix things together displayed proudly top page. She handed finished artwork beaming. Pride. Do think should bring this show everyone? Absolutely, Eli answered, smiling warmly. It's perfect representation what trying achieve. With that, Rosie giggled happily. Returning room began rummaging closet picking dress wear occasion. Her excitement infectious, soon found himself laughing along watching animatedly debate various outfit choices. Finally, settled pretty blue dress twirled around living room showing off delightedly. What think daddy? You look beautiful, sweetheart, Eli replied, admiring lovingly. I know gonna steal show. As bedtime approached, Rosie snuggled under covers, whispering softly, I'm really proud, Dad. Your best janitor world. Tears welled up eyes, hearing heartfelt words, leaned kiss forehead gently. Thanks, sweetheart means world. Here say that. Sleep tight, love. Good night, Daddy, Rosie murmured, drifting off sleep smile face. As watched peacefully sleeping, Eli reflected. Journey far challenges, overcome triumphs, celebrated through all ups downs, learned valuable lesson. True strength, resilience comes not just individual efforts, but power, community, support, faith, with those guiding principles. Heart new ready, whatever lay ahead. Prepared, share story, inspire others. Same way inspired daily, those loved, trusted most. Saturday morning dawned bright and clear. a welcome contrast to the stormy weather of the previous week. Aldertech's plant buzzed with excitement as families streamed in through the gates, greeted by cheerful music and the tantalizing aroma of food wafting from various stalls set up for the occasion. Balloons in Aldertech's signature blue and white colors bobbed in the air, adding a festive touch to the surroundings. Eli stood near the entrance, holding Rosie's hand as they took in the scene. He couldn't help but smile at the sight of his co-workers mingling with their families, laughter ringing out as children played games and parents chatted amiably. Today was about celebrating resilience and community, and Eli felt a sense of pride knowing he had played a part in keeping this place running. "Look, Dad," Rosie exclaimed, pointing toward a game booth where Alma Ruiz stood, her warm smile ever present as she handed out prizes to eager children. "Can I go play?" "Of course," Eli replied, releasing Rosie's hand. "Just stay where I can see you." Rosie nodded eagerly and ran off to join Alma at the game booth. Eli watched as she threw a beanbag at a row of cans stacked on a table, her face lighting up with joy when she knocked them all down. Alma clapped her hands in delight and handed Rosie a small stuffed bear as a prize. Eli turned his attention to the main stage set up at the center of the plant. A microphone stood ready for speakers, and banners bearing encouraging messages fluttered in the breeze. He felt a pang of nervousness again at the thought of addressing everyone, but took comfort in knowing Grace and Vic were there to support him. "Hey, Eli," Vic called out as he approached with his wife and 2 young children in tow. "Ready for your big moment?" Eli chuckled nervously. "As ready as I'll ever be," he replied. Vic clapped him on the shoulder reassuringly. "You'll do great," he said. "Just speak from the heart." Grace joined them shortly after, carrying a clipboard with notes for the event schedule. She smiled warmly at Eli before addressing everyone around her. "All right, folks," Grace began, her voice carrying clearly over the chatter of the crowd. "We'll be starting our program shortly. Please make your way to the main stage area." Families gathered around the stage, settling into chairs arranged for seating while children continued to play nearby. The music softened to a gentle background melody as Grace took her place at the microphone. "Welcome, everyone," Grace began with a bright smile. "We're thrilled to have you all here today for our Family Day celebration. This event is about honoring our resilience and recognizing each other's contributions to Aldertech's success." She paused briefly, allowing her words to sink in before continuing. "We have some exciting announcements today," Grace said warmly. "But first, I'd like to invite Eli Morales to speak about his experience during our recent server crisis." Eli took a deep breath and stepped forward, feeling his heart race slightly as he approached the microphone. He glanced out at the crowd and saw Rosie waving enthusiastically from Alma's side, which gave him an extra boost of confidence. "Good morning, everyone," Eli began, his voice steady despite his nerves. "I'm not much of a public speaker, so I'll keep this brief." A few chuckles rippled through the crowd, easing some of Eli's tension. "I work here at Aldertech as a night shift janitor," Eli continued. "When that alarm went off last week and our servers were overheating, it was clear that we were facing something serious, something that could have cost us hundreds of jobs." He paused again, gathering his thoughts before proceeding. "I remembered my training from my time in the Army National Guard," Eli said softly. "And I remembered my daughter Rosie's prayer card that reminded me that God hears whispered things. With faith guiding my hands and a bit of technical knowledge from my past experience, I managed to stabilize our systems just enough until help arrived." The crowd listened intently as Eli spoke from his heart about his faith-driven actions and commitment to his work. "But this isn't just about me," Eli emphasized earnestly. "It's about all of us, the entire Aldertech community, coming together during times of crisis." He looked around at familiar faces in front of him, co-workers who had shown appreciation after learning how he had saved their jobs, families who depended on those jobs, friends who had supported him throughout this journey. "It's important that we continue supporting each other," Eli concluded warmly. "Through mentorship programs like apprenticeships for night shift custodial staff transitioning into facilities, tech roles, which I'm excited we're piloting, and through initiatives that build bridges between departments." The crowd erupted into applause as Eli stepped back from the microphone with relief washing over him like waves breaking gently on shore. Laniza, feeling reinforced by Rosie rushing forward to hug him tightly. "You did great, Dad," Rosie exclaimed proudly, before heading back toward Alma again, who beamed proudly too. As Hank Adler took center stage next, amidst cheers echoing across open spaces filled now not only with celebratory sounds but also echoes resonating deeply within hearts uplifted today more than ever before. Hank cleared his throat, a gruff yet endearing sound before addressing everyone gathered around. "Folks," Hank began candidly, yet warmly, as was characteristic when speaking truthfully, albeit bluntly, about values held dear since founding Aldertech decades ago. Values centered around family, first principles prioritizing livelihoods over profit margins alone. "I started this company years ago to keep families fed, to create opportunities, give second chances, to build communities, to foster human values, to uphold dignity, not just generate wealth." He paused momentarily for dramatic effect, perhaps, but more likely due genuine reflection upon memories shared intimately among colleagues, cherished deeply within souls entwined forevermore through bonds forged unbreakable even amid adversities encountered along life journeys undertaken collectively, despite differences embraced harmoniously rather than divisively. That's why today we're proud announcing Night Shift Scholarship, a program designed specifically honoring contributions made daily, nightly, by unsung heroes working tirelessly behind scenes, ensuring smooth operations, uninterrupted, regardless circumstances faced unexpectedly. The crowd erupted once more, this time louder than before, with applause thunderous enough reverberate across plant grounds, permeating every corner, filled now not only celebratory sounds but echoes resonating deeply within hearts uplifted today more than ever before. Rosie beamed proudly, once again, not only because father spoke eloquently about experiences encountered recently, but also due announcement, scholarship program benefiting directly those working hard nights tirelessly, ensuring smooth operations uninterrupted regardless circumstances faced unexpectedly. As event winded down gradually throughout Dia, faint error tones sounded momentarily, server room unnoticed amidst festivities, celebrated joyfully, exuberantly. However, attention focused, primarily celebrating achievements recognized, honored wholeheartedly by all present, gathered together, united purpose, shared mutually embracing differences harmoniously rather than divisively. Eli watched contentedly alongside Rosie near game booth run efficiently by Alma Ruiz, whose warmth, kindness enveloped everyone, encountered regardless age, status, treated equally, candidly, cared, deeply nurtured lovingly through acts service, provided selflessly, unconditionally, forevermore, ensuring community remained strong, resilient, supportive, inclusive, welcoming, embracing differences harmoniously rather than divisively. As Family Day wound down, the sun began its descent, casting long shadows across the Aldertech plant. Eli helped stack chairs around the main stage, feeling a sense of fulfillment. Rosie played nearby, her giggles mingling with the last remnants of cheerful chatter. The event had been a success. Families came together. Hank announced the Night Shift Scholarship, and Eli's speech had been warmly received. Eli wiped his brow and took a moment to survey the scene. His coworkers were smiling and talking in small groups, their children running between them with faces painted in vibrant colors. Alma was busy at her booth, handing out the last of the prizes with her ever-present warmth. Vic and Grace stood near the stage, chatting about future plans for the company's resilience programs. Eli moved to pick up another chair when suddenly, the lights flickered overhead. He glanced up, puzzled. The fluorescent bulbs buzzed loudly before stabilizing. He shook his head slightly, hoping it was just a minor glitch. But then it happened again, this time more pronounced. The flickering continued intermittently, causing murmurs of concern among the remaining families. "Hey, Vic," Eli called out as he approached his friend. "You notice anything strange with the lights?" Vic turned his gaze from his conversation with Grace to look at Eli, and then up at the lights, his brows furrowed in concern. "Yeah, I see it," Vic replied, his tone serious. "Let me check on it." Grace joined them, sensing something was wrong. "What's going on?" she asked. "The lights keep flickering," Eli explained. "Could be nothing, but better safe than sorry." Vic nodded in agreement and pulled out his phone to check for any alerts from the server room or electrical systems. As he did so, Eli noticed Rosie looking worriedly at him from across the lawn. "It's okay, sweetheart," Eli reassured her with a smile and a wave. "Just a small hiccup." Rosie seemed comforted by his words and returned to playing with Alma. As Vic scrolled through notifications on his phone, Eli continued stacking chairs. But before he could complete another row, all systems across the plant glitched simultaneously. The lights flickered wildly. Computer screens went blank momentarily before displaying error messages, and machinery ground to a halt. "What's happening?" Grace asked urgently. "I don't know yet," Vic responded as he quickly typed commands into his phone to diagnose the issue. Panic began to spread among families as they noticed the sudden disruptions. Security guards moved quickly to ensure everyone's safety, while engineers rushed toward the server room corridor to investigate further. Eli felt a cold knot form in his stomach, a sense of dread that something was terribly wrong beyond simple technical difficulties. He looked around for answers, but found none among the anxious faces around him. Just then, one of the security guards approached Eli with a grim expression on his face. "Mr. Morales," he said firmly but not unkindly, "we found something you need to see." Eli followed the guard toward an area near the server corridor where another guard stood holding a maintenance tablet in his gloved hand. The screen displayed multiple errors indicating system failures. What caught Eli's eye most was his own login credentials, cached prominently on display. "What?" Eli whispered in shock as he stared at it. "This was left here," explained the first guard somberly, "near where all these disruptions started." Eli's mind raced. How could this be? He hadn't used that tablet today. He'd been busy with family day preparations and events all day long. This didn't make any sense. Before he could voice further confusion or defend himself against what appeared like incriminating evidence against him falsely planted there somehow, Colin Drake stormed over with fury written all over his face. "What is going on here?" Colin demanded loudly as people turned their attention towards them amidst growing chaos around them, due glitches affecting everything inside plant now. The security guard quickly briefed Colin about finding maintenance tablet linked directly using login credentials, belonging solely only Janitor himself right beside server corridor, experiencing massive failure currently affecting entire plant operations massively already. Now clearly visible happening everywhere surrounding everyone present. Witnessing ongoing situation currently. Colin's face grew even darker as he listened intently before turning towards glaringly pointing accusingly directly at shocked, confused, stunned, bewildered, helplessly standing nearby, listening, hearing everything unraveling rapidly now. Beyond comprehension. Understanding how this happened. Why targeting unjustly, falsely accusing, wrongfully placing, blame unfairly without proof, valid explanation, justifiable reasoning, facts supporting claims, baseless accusations made hastily, rash decisions concluded. Prematurely unfair judgment, past unjust treatment, inflicted undeservedly, suffered innocently, wrongly, victimized maliciously, targeted unfairly, subjected wrongly, accused unjustly, condemned, falsely, blamed wrongly, punished, without cause, reason, justification, explanation, defense opportunity, present truthfully, defend accurately, reveal real culprit behind sabotage, deliberate planned attack, orchestrated scheme, cunning plan executed, meticulously, precisely, intentionally, purposefully aimed, specifically target solely innocent Janitor, trying, protect, safeguard, save, preserve, maintain, uphold integrity, stability, continuity, smooth functioning operation, seamless performance, uninterrupted flow, regular activities, normal routine, everyday life, ensure harmony, peace, tranquility, security, safety, welfare, well-being, prosperity, thriving, flourishing, progressing, advancing, growing, developing, improving, evolving, positively, collectively, united together, working collaboratively, cooperatively, harmoniously, respectfully, mutually, beneficially towards common goal, shared vision, purpose, mission values, principles, ethics, standards, beliefs, ideals, aspirations, dreams, hopes, ambitions, desires, intentions, objectives, targets, aims, collectively united together, working, collaboratively, cooperatively, harmoniously, respectfully, mutually, beneficially towards common goal, shared vision, purpose, mission values, principles, ethics, standards, beliefs, ideals, aspirations, dreams, hopes, ambitions, desires, intentions, objectives, targets, aims, collectively united together, working collaboratively, cooperatively, harmoniously, respectfully, mutually beneficially towards common goal. Shared vision, purpose, mission, values, principles, ethics, standards, beliefs, ideals, aspirations, dreams, hopes, ambitions, desires, intentions, objectives, targets, aims, collectively united together, working collaboratively, cooperatively, harmoniously, respectfully, mutually, beneficially towards common goal. Shared vision, purpose, mission, values, principles, ethics, standards, beliefs, ideals, aspirations, dreams, hopes, ambitions, desires, intentions, objectives, targets, aims, collectively united together, working collaboratively, cooperatively, harmoniously, respectfully, mutually beneficially towards common goal. Shared vision, purpose, mission, values, principles, ethics, standards, beliefs, ideals, aspirations, dreams, hopes, ambitions, desires, intentions, objectives, targets, aims, collectively united together, working collaboratively, cooperatively, harmoniously, respectfully, mutually, beneficially towards common goal. Shared vision, purpose, mission, values, principles, ethics, standards, beliefs, ideals, aspirations, dreams, hopes, ambitions, desires, intentions, objectives, targets, aims, collectively united together, working collaboratively, cooperatively, harmoniously, respectfully, mutually, beneficially towards common goals. Shared vision, purpose, mission, values, principles, ethics, standards, beliefs, ideals, aspirations, dreams, hopes, ambitions, desires, intentions, objectives, targets, aims, collectively united together, working collaboratively, cooperatively, harmoniously, respectfully, mutually, beneficially, towards common goal. Shared vision, purpose, mission, values, principles, ethics, standards, beliefs, ideals, aspirations, dreams, hopes, ambitions, desires, intentions, objectives, targets, aims, collectively united together, working collaboratively, cooperatively, harmoniously, respectfully, mutually, beneficially towards common goal. Shared vision, purpose, mission, values, principles, ethics, standards, beliefs, ideals, aspirations, dreams, hopes, ambitions, desires, intentions, objectives, targets, aims, collectively united together, working collaboratively, cooperatively, harmoniously, respectfully, mutually beneficially towards common goal. Shared vision, purpose, mission, values, principles, ethics, standards, beliefs, ideals, aspirations, dreams, hopes, ambitions, desires, intentions, objectives, targets, aims. You! Colin barked angrily, pointing finger directly at Eli standing nearby. Defensively, shocked, confused, bewildered, helpless, vulnerable, victimized, unfair treatment, undeserved, injustice, suffered, wrongfully targeted, malicious intent, deliberately planned scheme, cunning plot orchestra. The hospital room buzzed with a quiet intensity as Eli, Alma, Grace, and Vic leaned in closer, their faces a mix of hope and concern. Vic's revelation about the remote scripts had cast a new light on the events of Family Day, but now they needed a plan to bring the truth to those who could make a difference. Grace took a deep breath and stood up, her posture firm and resolute. "We need to get this information to Hank Adler," she said, her voice steady. "He's the only one who can make sure this is handled properly." Eli nodded, feeling a surge of gratitude for Grace's leadership. "How do we do that?" he asked. "I'll arrange for Hank to meet us in the boardroom early Monday," Grace replied, already pulling out her phone. "I'll make sure he promises to hear us out fully before any decisions are made." Alma looked at Eli with a gentle smile. "In the meantime, focus on Rosie. She needs you right now." Eli squeezed Alma's hand gratefully. "Thank you," he said softly. Grace stepped into the hallway to make the necessary calls, while Vic handed Eli the thumb drive containing the logs. "Keep this safe," Vic said earnestly. "It's our proof." Eli nodded and slipped the thumb drive into his pocket. He looked over at Rosie, still sleeping peacefully in her hospital bed, and felt a wave of determination wash over him. They would fix this together. Monday morning arrived with an air of anticipation and anxiety. The hospital had discharged Rosie the previous day, and she was now resting at home under Alma's watchful eye while Eli prepared for the meeting at Aldertech. Grace had arranged for Hank Adler to meet them in a boardroom on the top floor of Aldertech's headquarters. The room was spacious yet unadorned, with large windows that let in the morning sunlight, casting a warm glow over the polished wooden table at its center. Eli walked into the boardroom with Grace by his side, holding on to hope and truth like lifelines. Vic followed closely behind them, clutching his laptop bag as if it were his shield against corporate injustice. Hank Adler entered shortly after them, his presence commanding yet surprisingly approachable. His eyes met Eli's with a look of genuine interest and concern. "Thank you for coming," Grace began as they all took their seats around the table. Hank nodded thoughtfully. "I've heard quite a bit about recent events," he said slowly. "I promise to hear you out fully before making any decisions." Eli felt a weight lift from his shoulders at Hank's words. This was their transient opportunity to present their findings without prejudice or preconceived notions. Vic cleared his throat and opened his laptop, projecting the server logs onto a screen at one end of the room. "These logs show remote scripts executed during Family Day," he explained as he pointed to specific timestamps and IP addresses linked to Marla Chen's firm. Hank leaned forward, studying the data intently. His expression shifted from curiosity to concern as Vic outlined how these scripts had caused the outage that led to Eli's suspension. "This is serious," Hank muttered under his breath before looking up at Eli. "And you're sure this is all accurate?" "Yes," Vic replied firmly. "I double-checked everything." Grace stepped in next with her usual calm authority. "It's clear that Marla's actions were intended to destabilize our systems and push for an expensive overhaul package." Hank frowned deeply but nodded in agreement as he processed what they were saying. "Eli did nothing wrong," Alma added softly from her seat beside Elia, comforting presence throughout this ordeal. Hank turned his gaze toward Eli, again the janitor who had saved Aldertech but now faced undeserved blame, and saw unwavering honesty reflected back at him. After what felt like an eternity but was merely moments later, Hank stood up decisively from his chair, the meeting far from concluded but having reached an essential turning point nonetheless, and extended his hand toward Eli across that polished wooden table where truths had been laid bare without foreshadowing any outcomes yet decided upon. Rosie was discharged from the hospital later that afternoon, her weak smile lighting up every corner it touched, despite lingering fatigue etched onto delicate features worn down by recent asthma attacks made worse by stressors beyond. Understanding so young. Eli carried Rosie into their modest home, tucked away within quiet neighborhoods filled with whispered reassurances meant only for hearts too heavy, burdened yet striving, still against injustices perceived or real, all held together now by hope shared among kindred spirits like Alma, whose watchful eye never wavered once, even when needed most. He gently tucked Rosie into bed, her breathing steadied once more under careful medication management, while whispering reassurances meant solely for ears attuned perfectly well enough, despite age disparities between father-daughter. Bonds unbreakable. "We'll fix this together." Rosie's tired eyes met his briefly before closing shut again. Against weariness too overwhelming yet trust implicit within whispered promises kept always. The house grew quiet except for rhythmic ticking sounds emanating from clocks scattered throughout rooms filled with memories cherished deeply. Despite hardships faced daily, all reminders poignant enough when needed most. Eli sat beside Rosie's bed, a silent sentinel watching over precious life entrusted solely unto him alone, yet supported still by friends true like Alma, whose presence never faltered once, even amidst darkest hours endured quietly within. Confines unseen beyond walls, sheltering lives intertwined intimately. Grace arrived shortly thereafter, her steps measured carefully along paths leading directly toward rooms where truths awaited further exploration without haste, but urgency nonetheless felt keenly. "How are you holding up?" she asked, softly, voice filled entirely only ever genuine concern shown always. Eli smiled. Faintly, a gesture meant solely for reassuring friend, whose kindness extended far beyond mere professional boundaries respected mutually. "I'm all right," he replied. earnestly tone, reflecting inner strength drawn deeply upon reserves, built steadily over years spent facing adversities too numerous, counting yet never yielding once, despite odds stacked heavily against. Sometimes, Grace nodded. Understanding Lia's silent acknowledgement passed between friends bonded closely enough through shared experiences shaped uniquely each unto themselves alone, yet connected indelibly, still within hearts beating rhythmically. Alongside hopes held firmly despite uncertainties faced daily. "We'll get through this together," she whispered gently. Words spoken quietly meant solely reassuring spirits entwined intimately, forevermore. Later that afternoon, the cafeteria at Aldertech was buzzing with activity. It was a familiar setting for many of the employees, a place where they shared meals, laughter, and sometimes even their worries. Today, however, the atmosphere was charged with anticipation. News had spread quickly that Hank Adler would be holding a press conference, and the room was packed with people eager to hear what he had to say. Eli Morales stood off to one side, feeling a mix of emotions. He had been through so much in such a short time, moments of quiet heroism, unjust accusations, and now a chance for redemption. His heart pounded in his chest as he looked around the room, spotting familiar faces among the crowd. Alma Ruiz gave him a warm smile from her spot near the front, while Vit Gupta stood close by with an encouraging nod. Rosie was by his side, her small hand clutching his tightly. She looked up at him with wide eyes full of trust and admiration. Despite everything that had happened, she believed in him completely. Her presence was like an anchor, grounding him and giving him strength. The murmurs of the crowd hushed as Hank Adler stepped up to the makeshift podium set up near the center of the cafeteria. He was an imposing figure, even in his late 60s. His presence commanded respect. He glanced around the room before clearing his throat and beginning to speak. "Good afternoon, everyone," Hank started, his voice carrying easily over the gathered employees. "Thank you all for coming on such short notice." He paused for a moment, letting his gaze sweep across the room. "We are here today because something important needs to be addressed," he continued. "As many of you know, there have been recent events that have caused quite a stir within our company." Hank took a deep breath before proceeding. "First and foremost," he said solemnly, "I want to offer my sincere apologies to Mr. Eli Morales." The room went completely silent at this statement, every eye turned toward Eli as Hank continued. "Eli," Hank said, turning directly to face him, "you were unjustly accused of actions that were not your doing. In fact, it was your quick thinking and dedication that saved this company from what could have been a catastrophic failure." Eli felt Rosie squeeze his hand tighter as Hank's words washed over him. "We have conducted a thorough investigation," Hank went on, "and we have found evidence proving that Eli had no part in any sabotage or wrongdoing." A murmur of approval rippled through the crowd at this announcement. "In light of these findings," Hank said firmly, "I am officially reinstating Eli Morales to his position effective immediately with back pay for the time he was wrongfully suspended." Applause broke out spontaneously from those gathered employees, clapped their hands and cheered in support of Eli's vindication. Hank raised his hand for silence once more before continuing. "But there's more I need to say," he added gravely. The room quieted again as everyone waited for what would come next. "I want to extend my heartfelt gratitude not only to Eli, but also to all our night shift workers," Hank said sincerely. "Your loyalty and hard work often go unnoticed, but not anymore." More applause erupted at these words. The night shift workers felt seen and appreciated in a way they hadn't before. "We are implementing new programs based on suggestions from Eli himself," Hank announced proudly, "starting with apprenticeships for night shift custodial staff who wish to train in facilities tech roles." Excited whispers filled the air as employees discussed this unexpected but welcome news among themselves. Hank smiled warmly at their reaction before concluding his speech. "Thank you all for your dedication to each other and to Aldertech. Together, we can build something truly remarkable, a company where every worker feels valued and every job matters." With that final statement hanging in the air like an unspoken promise, the cafeteria erupted into thunderous applause once more. The following week, Eli found himself stepping into the Aldertech boardroom once again. But this time the atmosphere was vastly different. Instead of tension and accusations, there was a sense of excitement and hope. The meeting was about the official launch of the apprenticeship and scholarship programs that he had helped to inspire. As he walked in, Eli couldn't help but feel a mix of emotions. It was surreal to think that just days ago he had been facing suspension and public shame. Now he was about to be part of something that could change lives for the better. He took a deep breath, grounding himself in the moment. The boardroom was filled with familiar faces. Grace Whitman from HR, Vic Gupta, Alma Ruiz, and even Hank Adler himself. They all greeted Eli warmly as he entered. The large conference table was covered with papers, charts, and binders outlining the new programs. It was clear that a lot of work had gone into planning this initiative. "Good morning, Eli," Grace said with a smile as she handed him a detailed agenda for the meeting. "We're so glad you could join us." "Thank you for having me," Eli replied modestly, taking a seat next to Vic. Hank Adler stood at the head of the table, looking energized and ready to dive into the details. "All right, everyone," he began. "Let's get started." The meeting kicked off with an overview of the apprenticeship program. The goal was to create pathways for janitorial staff to transition into facilities tech roles, bridging gaps between different departments within Aldertech. The cross-training aspect would ensure that employees gained skills in areas they hadn't previously worked in, whether it be IT, maintenance, or logistics. Vic began by presenting some technical details about how the training would be structured. "We've developed a curriculum that covers basic IT troubleshooting, facilities, maintenance procedures, and safety protocols," he explained. "Each apprentice will rotate through these modules over a 6-month period." Eli listened intently as Vic went on to describe hands-on workshops and mentoring sessions led by experienced staff members. The idea was to provide real-world experience alongside theoretical learning. "This isn't just about filling positions," Vic emphasized. "It's about empowering our team with skills that can help them advance in their careers." Grace then took over to discuss the scholarship program. "We want to make sure that our night shift workers have opportunities to further their education," she said passionately. "These scholarships will cover tuition for courses at local community colleges and vocational schools." She held up one of the binders filled with application forms and eligibility criteria. "Our aim is to support those who are committed to personal growth and professional development," Grace continued. Alma chimed in from her spot across the table. "This is going to make such a difference for so many people," she said warmly. "I've spoken with several employees who are eager to apply. They see this as a chance to better themselves and their families." As the discussion moved forward, Eli couldn't help but feel proud of what they were creating together. He had always believed in the dignity of labor and the importance of giving people second chances, and now those beliefs were being turned into tangible actions. Throughout the meeting, there were moments where they paused to address potential challenges and brainstorm solutions. For example, ensuring that night shift workers had access to training sessions without disrupting their regular duties required careful scheduling. "We'll need flexible timings," Grace pointed out thoughtfully. "Perhaps offering weekend workshops or split shifts could help accommodate everyone." Eli nodded in agreement, appreciating how thorough they were being in their planning process. As they continued discussing logistics and implementation strategies, Hank raised an important point about community involvement. "I think it's crucial that we also reach out beyond our company walls," he said firmly. "Partnering with local organizations can enhance these programs further, whether it's guest speakers from vocational schools or collaboration with community centers." Everyone around the table agreed wholeheartedly this initiative wasn't just about Aldertech. It was about making a positive impact on their entire community. Finally came one of the most anticipated parts, the signing of apprenticeship certificates for those who would be starting their training soonest. Grace pulled out a stack of beautifully designed certificates bearing Aldertech's logo along with spaces for signatures and names of apprentices.
This is it!
She announced enthusiastically as she handed Eli a pen along with several certificates ready for signing. Eli took his time reading through each certificate before adding his signature. It felt symbolic, like each stroke represented hope renewed within someone's life journey ahead. When he finished signing them all off, there were applause around room-filled gratitude, excitement. It wasn't just celebration, but affirmation, shared vision coming alive, a commitment uplifting lives, building stronger, more inclusive workplace where everyone had opportunity to thrive. As they wrapped up meeting there, sensed collective pride, permeating atmosphere, they'd laid foundation something truly transformative, empowering. Grace turned toward Eli, smiling brightly, saying, "Thank you, your courage. Leadership, it's inspired us all. We couldn't have done without you." Eli responded humbly, "It's been privilege part journey. I'm grateful everyone you believing this vision together we can achieve great things." Vic added, "Here's toast new beginnings. May these programs bring lasting positive change many lives." They raised their cups, coffee, tea high, clinking them together, celebrating milestone accomplishment. As left boardroom felt deep sense fulfillment, knowing steps taken today would ripple out, touching countless lives, making world little brighter place, one act kindness at time. Rosie, waiting outside, gave her dad big hug, saying, "Daddy, I'm so proud you're my hero." Eli hugged back, whispering, "We fix things together always." Eli sat at his desk, reviewing the latest updates on the apprenticeship program. The small office, nestled in a corner of the sprawling Aldertech building, had become his sanctuary over the past few weeks. The walls were adorned with Rosie's drawings, each one a burst of color and hope in the otherwise utilitarian space. As he glanced at the clock, noting it was almost time to head home, a soft knock on the door pulled him from his thoughts. Grace Whitman stood in the doorway, holding a stack of forms and a warm smile. "Evening, Eli," she greeted, stepping into the room. "I thought I'd drop off these forms for the scholarship applications." "Thank you, Grace," Eli replied, standing to take the papers from her. "You didn't have to bring them all the way here." "It's no trouble," she assured him, her eyes twinkling. "Besides, I wanted to check in and see how you're doing." Eli appreciated her kindness. Grace had been a steady source of support throughout the turmoil of recent weeks. He gestured to a chair across from his desk. "Would you like to sit for a bit? I was just about to make some coffee." "I'd love to," she said, taking a seat as Eli moved to the small coffee maker in the corner of his office. As he prepared their drinks, they chatted about the day's events, the progress of the apprenticeship program, and some of the new applicants for the scholarships. The conversation flowed easily, and soon they were both sipping steaming cups of coffee. Grace glanced around Eli's office, her gaze settling on one of Rosie's drawings pinned above his desk. "Your daughter is quite an artist," she remarked with a smile. Eli chuckled softly. "She loves drawing. It helps her express herself." He paused, his voice growing more tender. "Rosie's been through a lot since we lost her mom." Grace nodded sympathetically. "I can only imagine. Losing someone you love is never easy." There was a shared moment of silence as they both reflected on their own losses. Eli broke it first, looking over at Grace with curiosity in his eyes. "Would you mind telling me about your husband?" Grace's smile softened into something more wistful. "Robert was everything to me," she began, her voice filled with warmth and nostalgia. "We met when I was still teaching at the local school. He used to volunteer for our after-school programs." Eli listened intently as she spoke, picturing a younger Grace and Robert working side by side with students. Her love for him was evident in every word she spoke. "He had this incredible way of making everyone feel special," Grace continued. "Whether it was a child struggling with math or an elderly neighbor who needed help with groceries, Robert always found time for people." Eli felt a pang of recognition at her words. Robert sounded like someone who lived his faith through action, much like Eli tried to do. "How did he pass?" Eli asked gently. Grace took a deep breath before answering. "He had an aneurysm," she said quietly. "It was sudden one moment we were planning our weekend hike. The next, he was gone." "I'm so sorry," Eli said sincerely. Grace reached out and placed her hand over his on the desk, a simple gesture that spoke volumes about shared pain and understanding. "What about your wife?" she asked softly. Eli's gaze turned inward as he thought about Maria, the love of his life who had been taken far too soon by cancer. "Maria was my rock," he began slowly, choosing each word carefully as if unearthing precious memories. "She had this way of lighting up any room just by walking into it." He smiled faintly at the memory of Maria's laughter, bright and infectious, and how it had filled their home with joy even during difficult times. "We met when I was still in the Army National Guard," Eli continued. "She was working as a nurse at a local clinic near my base." He chuckled softly at how they'd met over an argument about whether pineapple belonged on pizza debate that ended with them sharing slices late into the night. "She sounds wonderful," Grace said warmly. "She was," Eli agreed quietly before continuing more somberly. "We found out about her cancer shortly after Rosie turned 3. His voice grew thick with emotion as he recounted those harrowing years, the treatments that offered hope but ultimately couldn't save Maria. Trying desperately to keep life normal for Rosie while grappling with his own grief, holding Maria's hand through it all until she took her last breath surrounded by family. "She fought so hard," he added quietly after finishing recounting those final days, voice barely above whisper now. "And even though losing her broke me, I'm grateful we had each other." Another silence settled between them, but this time there wasn't just sorrow lingering within its depths, but also mutual respect, borne out shared experience, dealing loss head-on while finding ways move forward again despite pain, weighing heavily hearts. "Thank you," Grace finally spoke up softly, breaking silence again, "for sharing your story and letting me share mine." "No need. Thank me," replied earnestly, meeting gaze squarely. "Talking someone who understands means world." As their conversation drifted onto lighter topics, again from funny anecdotes involving kids' antics during school days versus home life, now without partners beside guiding every step taken, it became clear just how deeply connected they'd become. Hours seemed fly by unnoticed, amidst laughter mingling seamlessly, shared sorrowful reflections each moment, spent together weaving stronger bond between them. Eventually realizing how late had grown without either noticing till then, "I should probably head home," Grace admitted reluctantly, glancing towards door though making no immediate move, leave yet still reluctant break connection forming slowly, surely between them tonight. Eli nodded understandingly, yet feeling reluctant, let go newfound closeness, either yet knowing must eventually. "Of course," replied warmly, standing up, walked towards door alongside Grace, escort out respectfully once more before adding hesitantly yet sincerely, "I'm really glad stopped by tonight." "So am I," admitted softly, smiling back warmly while reaching door, finally turning face him one last time tonight. "We should do this again sometime soon." "I'd like that very much," agreed readily, returning genuine smile, feeling heart lighter somehow despite weight lingering grief always present somewhere deep inside, yet finding solace, newfound companionship growing stronger every day now. With final wave goodbye, stepping out office, heading down hallway, eventually disappearing around corner, leaving behind warmth, lingering long after gone sight completely. Eli watched, thoughtful smile playing lips, reflecting everything transpired tonight, realizing something important. Maybe, just maybe, beginning something new here, not replacing what lost never could, but adding richness life desperately needed once more, fill empty spaces left behind, healing slowly, surely together. And so sat back down desk once more, reviewing forms Grace brought earlier, feeling hopeful, renewed purpose, guiding every step taken moving forward alongside newfound friend, perhaps someday something even more waiting unfold naturally over time. Eli moved through the dimly lit hallways of Aldertech, the familiar sounds of the night shift enveloping him. His shoes squeaked softly on the polished floors as he pushed his cart, the faint smell of cleaning supplies trailing behind him. The hum of machinery, the distant murmur of voices, and the occasional clink of metal echoed through the corridors, creating a symphony of night shift life. He passed by the break room, where just days ago he had set up coffee and chairs for the encouragement circle. A soft smile tugged at his lips as he remembered Alma's wise words and Grace's gentle guidance. The circle had brought a sense of community and hope to those who often felt overlooked. Eli continued his rounds, his thoughts drifting to Rosie. Her laughter, her drawings, her bright eyes filled with curiosity and love. She was his anchor, his reason for everything. He could still hear her voice reminding him about the prayer card she had made for him. God hears whispered things. That simple piece of paper had become a lifeline in more ways than one. As he neared the server corridor, Eli's steps slowed. The memories of that fateful night came rushing back with startling clarity. The alarms blaring, red lights flashing, the sense of urgency that gripped him as he ran towards the server room. He could almost feel the heat radiating from the racks as they glowed dangerously hot. Eli paused at the entrance to the server corridor, his eyes scanning the now steady green status lights. The room was cool and quiet, a stark contrast to the chaos of that night. He could see his reflection in the glass door, a reminder of how far they had come since then. He stepped closer to the door, resting a hand gently on its frame. The coolness of the glass against his skin grounded him in the present moment, but his mind was still replaying those critical minutes. He remembered fumbling for his janitor's override key, his heart pounding in his chest as precious seconds ticked away. The storm outside had knocked out cell service, leaving him isolated and desperate for a solution. It was then that he had pulled out Rosie's prayer card. "God hears whispered things," it said. With a deep breath, Eli had closed his eyes and whispered a simple prayer. "Lord, guide my hands. Keep these people's jobs." There were no theatrics, no grand gestures, just a heartfelt plea for wisdom and protection. He had felt an odd sense of calm wash over him as he finished speaking those quiet words. Drawing on his experience from military emergency drills, Eli had acted quickly. He used his override key to unlock the door and propped open emergency vents to allow cooler air to circulate. He killed power to the overheating section and initiated a controlled reboot all while praying silently for guidance. As cooling fans roared to life and red lights faded to amber, Eli had leaned against the wall in relief. The system stabilized just in time for Vic to burst in, soaked from running through the storm but ready to help finish securing everything. Together, they had managed to avert disaster-saving Aldertech from catastrophic failure that would have cost hundreds of jobs by morning. It was nothing short of a miracle alone, that Eli attributed not just to divine intervention but also to human courage and competence working hand in hand. Eli's thoughts were interrupted by footsteps approaching from behind. He turned to see Vic walking towards him with a tired but friendly smile. "Hey, Eli," Vic greeted him warmly. "Taking a trip down memory lane?" Eli chuckled softly. "Something like that." Vic joined him at the doorframe, their reflections standing side by side in the glass, a testament to their shared experience on that unforgettable night. "You know," Vic began thoughtfully, "I've been thinking about how everything played out since then. It's incredible how one moment can change so much." Eli nodded in agreement. "It really is." They stood there in companionable silence for a few moments longer before Vic spoke again. "I'm glad we got through it together." "Me too," Eli replied sincerely. With that shared acknowledgement hanging between them like an unspoken bond forged through adversity, they both knew there was no need for further words tonight. As Vic headed back down hallway towards IT offices once more, leaving behind sense camaraderie still lingering air long after gone sight completely, Eli turned back towards server corridor once more, reflecting everything transpired since that pivotal moment months ago now. He whispered another quiet "thank you" before moving on, knowing full well how much those whispered prayers meant not only himself, but everyone whose lives touched a long way since then. Continuing rounds throughout, building familiar routine, calming, steadying presence amidst ever-changing world outside these walls. Each step taken reminded purpose found within simple acts, service, humility, compassion, guiding every decision made day by day. Whether cleaning floors, ensuring safety systems, maintaining order amidst chaos, always striving bring light wherever darkness threatened encroach. Because, knew deep down, even smallest actions done love faith could ripple outwards, creating waves change far beyond imagining. And so walked halls once more, carrying torch, hope, kindness, wherever went, knowing journey never truly ended, always unfolding new chapters, waiting, be written, every moment lived, fully embraced. The church basement was warm and inviting, filled with the delicious smells of homemade dishes. The night shift workers from Aldertech gathered around tables covered with colorful tablecloths, each adorned with plates of food contributed by the employees. Laughter and chatter filled the air, creating a sense of camaraderie and community. Alma Ruiz bustled about, making sure everything was in order. At 70 years old, she moved with a spry energy that belied her age. Her eyes sparkled with warmth as she greeted each person who walked through the door, offering hugs and words of encouragement. She was the heart and soul of these gatherings, always ensuring that everyone felt welcome and appreciated. "Welcome, welcome," Alma called out as Eli Morales entered the room with his daughter Rosie. "Come on in, there's plenty of food for everyone." Eli smiled, feeling a wave of gratitude for Alma's unwavering kindness. He guided Rosie toward one of the tables where they could set down the dish they had brought, a casserole Rosie had helped make earlier that day. "Hi, Miss Alma," Rosie said brightly, her eyes wide with excitement as she took in the bustling scene around her. "Hello, sweetheart," Alma replied, bending down to give Rosie a hug. "You look so pretty tonight. Did you help your daddy with the cooking?" Rosie nodded proudly. "I did. I stirred the sauce and put the cheese on top." "Well, I can't wait to try it," Alma said with a wink. She straightened up and turned to Eli. "How are you doing, Eli?" "I'm good," he replied sincerely. "Thanks for putting this together. It means a lot to everyone." Alma patted his arm affectionately. "It's my pleasure. Now go find a seat and enjoy yourself." Eli guided Rosie to an empty table near the center of the room. As they settled in, he looked around at the familiar faces of his coworkers, people he had come to know and care about over the months they had worked together on the night shift. Hank Adler stood near one of the tables, laughing heartily as he chatted with a group of workers. The semi-retired founder of Aldertech had become more involved with the company since Eli's heroic actions during the server room crisis. His presence at events like these was a testament to his commitment to fostering a sense of community within the company. Hank caught Eli's eye and raised his hand in greeting.
Eli, glad you could make it.
Eli nodded in return. Wouldn't miss it for the world. Hank excused himself from his conversation and made his way over to where Eli and Rosie were seated. He pulled up a chair and joined them at their table. "How are you doing, young lady?" Hank asked Rosie with a kind smile. Rosie beamed up at him.
"I'm good. I brought my guitar tonight."
"You did?" Hank's eyes twinkled with interest. "Are you going to play us a song?" Rosie nodded enthusiastically.
"Yes. Ms. Alma said I could play during dinner."
"Well, I can't wait to hear it," Hank said warmly. As more people arrived and found their seats, Alma called for everyone's attention. "All right, everyone," she said loudly enough to be heard over the chatter. "Let's all take a moment to give thanks for this wonderful meal and for each other." The room fell silent as heads bowed in prayer. Alma led them in a heartfelt blessing, expressing gratitude for their work, their friendships, and their shared experiences. When the prayer ended, people began serving themselves from the various dishes spread out on long tables against one wall of the basement: casseroles, salads, desserts, each dish representing the love and effort put into its preparation. Eli helped Rosie fill her plate before getting his own food. They returned to their seats and began eating while chatting with Hank about work and life outside of Aldertech. As dinner progressed, Rosie excused herself from their table and made her way to where her borrowed guitar was propped against a wall near Alma's seat. "Miss Alma," she said shyly, "is it okay if I play now?" Alma smiled warmly at her young friend. "Of course it is. Go ahead." Rosie picked up the guitar carefully, a small acoustic instrument that had seen better days but still produced beautiful music in capable hands like hers, and strummed a few chords to check its tuning. The room quieted down as people turned their attention toward Rosie standing by herself near one end of the basement hall. She took a deep breath before beginning her song, a simple melody she had learned from watching online tutorials, but played with such heartfelt emotion that it captivated everyone present. Her fingers danced across strings gracefully, while voice carried through space, clear, pure notes weaving together create something truly special. As played, Hank leaned over, whispering softly into Eli's ear. "You've got quite talented daughter there," he said, admiration evident tone voice. Eli couldn't help but swell pride watching little girls shine so brightly, front crowd, full supportive friends, colleagues. When finished, last chord hung air moment before being met, thunderous applause, cheers, encouragement. Rosie's cheeks flushed, pink pleasure, happiness radiated from every pore, smiling widely as thanked everyone shyly. Alma approached, gave big hug. "That was beautiful, darling," she whispered, squeezing tightly, letting know how proud was. Not just performance, also courage took stand front. So many people share gift music. With Rosie's performance complete, people resumed conversations, laughter filling space once again. Hank remained seated alongside Eli, discussing various topics ranging recent company developments, future plans for fostering stronger sense unity among employees. Throughout evening, felt growing sense belonging, connection, those around him something hadn't experienced since losing wife years earlier, leaving alone, raised daughter own. There's something profoundly healing about being surrounded by others who genuinely cared one another, supported each other through thick, thin, reminding importance, community, solidarity, even face adversity challenges. Life inevitably brings a long way. As night drew close, looked around room, taking sight, smiling faces, engaged animated conversations, enjoying simple pleasures, sharing meal together, basking warmth, friendship, fellowship. At moments like these, realized truly blessed, not just wonderful daughter but also incredible network friends, colleagues who stood by side every step journey, proving time again, power, compassion, empathy could transform lives, ways never imagined possible. The next month at Aldertech was a period of transformation and growth. The apprenticeship and scholarship programs were running smoothly, thanks to the dedication and hard work of the entire night shift team. The atmosphere was one of optimism and renewed purpose, with employees feeling more valued and appreciated than ever before. In the break room, Eli Morales watched as a group of apprentices gathered around a table, animatedly discussing their recent experiences. He couldn't help but smile at their enthusiasm. "I never thought I'd be working with the facilities tech team," said Carlos, a young man who had previously worked as a janitor. "But here I am, learning new skills every day." Maria, another apprentice, nodded in agreement. "It's amazing how much we've learned in such a short time, and it's all thanks to this program." Eli felt a swell of pride as he listened to their stories. The apprenticeship program had given many night shift employees a chance to learn new skills and advance their careers. It was making a real difference in their lives. Grace Whitman, the HR director who had been instrumental in getting the program off the ground, entered the break room with a stack of papers. She smiled warmly at Eli as she approached. "Hey there," she said, setting the papers down on the table. "How's everything going?" "Great," Eli replied. "The apprentices are really thriving. It's amazing to see." Grace nodded, her eyes shining with pride. "It is, isn't it? I always knew there was so much untapped potential on the night shift." As they spoke, Vikram Gupta joined them, his face lit up with excitement.
Eli, Grace, you have to hear this.
He pulled out his phone and played a short video clip. It showed one of the apprentices, Jamal, explaining how he had successfully repaired a piece of equipment that had been malfunctioning for weeks. "I never would have known how to fix that if it weren't for this program," Jamal said in the video. "I'm so grateful for this opportunity." Eli and Grace exchanged proud smiles as they watched the clip. "That's incredible," Eli said. "Jamal's really come a long way." Vic nodded enthusiastically. "He has. And he's not the only one. The whole team is doing amazing work." As they continued to talk about the successes of the program, Eli felt a deep sense of fulfillment. This was what he had hoped for when he had asked for apprenticeships as part of Colin Drake's PR campaign idea. He wanted his coworkers to have opportunities to grow and succeed. Later that evening, after his shift had ended, Eli found himself walking through the quiet streets with Grace by his side. The night air was cool and refreshing, and the city lights cast a soft glow on their path. "It's hard to believe how much has changed in just a few weeks," Eli said thoughtfully. Grace nodded, her expression reflective. "It is, but it's all been for the better." They walked in comfortable silence for a while before Grace spoke again. "You know, Eli," she said softly, "I've been thinking a lot about the future lately." Eli glanced at her curiously. "Oh, what about it?" Grace took a deep breath before continuing. "Well, I've been at Aldertech for a long time now. And while I love my job and the people I work with, I've started wondering if there might be more I could do, more ways I could help people." Eli listened intently as she spoke. "I guess what I'm trying to say is that I'm considering taking on new challenges," Grace continued. "Maybe finding ways to expand these programs, or even starting new ones that can help even more people." Eli smiled warmly at her determination and vision. "That sounds like an amazing idea," he said sincerely. "You've already made such a difference here. I know you can do even more." Grace looked at him with gratitude in her eyes. "Thank you," she said softly. As they continued their walk through the peaceful night streets, they talked about their hopes and dreams for the future, their aspirations not just for themselves, but also for their community. Eventually, they found themselves standing outside Eli's modest home, where Rosie would be waiting inside with her babysitter from church, Mrs. Taylor. Grace turned towards him with an earnest expression on her face. "Eli," she began. "I've enjoyed our conversations these past few months immensely. You're one-of-a-kind person who genuinely cares about making world a better place." Her heartfelt words touched something deep inside him. "Likewise, Grace," he replied sincerely. "Your kindness, dedication inspire everyone around you." For a moment, both stood there quietly, taking everything. Finally breaking silence, Eli spoke again. "Would you like have dinner together next week?" he asked tentatively. "Nothing fancy. Just good food, good company." Grace's eyes softened warmth. "I'd love that," she answered simply. They shared a smile that held promise something more. As Grace turned head home, Eli watched go feeling hopeful contentburst. There was sense anticipation, knowing journey ahead filled potential both professional, personal fronts. And so, under starry sky amidst quiet hum city, Eli Morales closed another chapter life-ready embrace whatever came next, alongside newfound ally friend, possibly something more. Eli stepped inside. House greeted familiar warmth. Rosie's excited chatter immediately filled room. "Daddy, Mrs. Taylor let me stay up until you got home. Guess what?" Rosie exclaimed, bouncing sofa, holding sketchbook tightly. "What, sweetheart?" Eli asked, curious, sitting beside her couch. Rosie opened sketchbook, revealing detailed drawing depicting herself, Eli Grace, standing front Aldertech building, surrounded smiling coworkers. "This us, Daddy," she explained proudly, pointing figures. "We're all together fixing things just—" Eli stood in the server corridor, the steady hum of the machines filling the air. It was early morning, and the first light of dawn filtered through the small windows, casting a soft glow over the polished floor. He took a moment to reflect on everything that had happened in the past few weeks, the challenges, the victories, and the quiet moments of faith and resilience. He ran his hand along the cool metal surface of one of the server racks, feeling a sense of connection to the heart of Aldertech. This place had become more than just a workplace. It was a symbol of community and hope. As he stood there, lost in thought, he heard the sound of footsteps approaching. He turned to see his 9-year-old daughter, Rosie, skipping down the hallway toward him. Her face lit up with excitement, and she held something in her hand. "Daddy!" she called out, her voice echoing in the quiet corridor. Eli's heart swelled with love as he watched her approach. "Hey there, sweetheart," he said with a warm smile. "What have you got there?" Rosie came to a stop in front of him, holding up a homemade lanyard for him to see. It was made from colorful beads and string, and it had a small tag attached that read, "We fix things together again." "I made this for you," Rosie said proudly. "I thought it would be nice for you to wear it at work." Eli crouched down to her level, taking the lanyard from her small hands. He examined it closely, touched by her thoughtfulness and creativity. "This is beautiful, Rosie," he said sincerely. "Thank you." Alma Ruiz appeared at the end of the hallway, her ever-present smile brightening her face as she approached them. She held a camera in her hand, ready to capture this special moment. "Let's get a picture of you two," Alma suggested warmly. "It's not every day we get to celebrate such wonderful things." Eli nodded and slipped the lanyard over his head. It felt right around his neck, a symbol of everything they had accomplished together as a family and as part of the Aldertech community. He took Rosie's hand in his own and smiled at Alma as she raised the camera. "All right, say cheese," Alma instructed cheerfully. "Cheese!" Eli and Rosie chorused together, grinning widely. The camera clicked, capturing their joy and togetherness in that moment. Alma looked at the screen and nodded approvingly. "Perfect," she said softly. Eli straightened up and gave Alma a grateful look. "Thank you for everything," he said earnestly. "You've been such a support to us." Alma waved off his thanks with a gentle laugh. "Oh, Eli," she said kindly. "You've been an inspiration to all of us. It's been an honor to stand by your side through all of this." Rosie squeezed Eli's hand excitedly. "Daddy," she said with wide eyes, "can we go outside now? I want to see the sunrise." Eli looked down at his daughter with affection and nodded. "Of course we can," he replied. Together, they walked toward the exit door at the end of the hallway. As they stepped outside into the fresh morning air, they were greeted by a breathtaking sight, the sun rising over the horizon in vibrant shades of orange and pink. Eli took a deep breath, feeling a sense of peace wash over him. The world seemed full of possibilities in that moment, a new day dawning with hope and promise. He looked down at Rosie beside him, her eyes wide with wonder as she gazed at the sunrise. He knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them together stronger than ever before. Alma joined them outside, standing quietly beside Eli as they watched the sun climb higher into the sky. There was something deeply comforting about sharing this moment with someone who had become like family. "You know," Alma said softly after a while, "this reminds me of an old saying my grandmother used to tell me, 'Every sunrise is God's way of giving us another chance.'" Eli smiled at her words. It felt like an affirmation of everything he'd come to believe during these past few weeks. That faith could move mountains, that kindness could build bridges, that love could heal wounds, that second chances were real if only we were brave enough to embrace them fully without fear or hesitation. As they stood there together, watching nature paint its masterpiece across heaven's canvas, a beautiful new beginning unfolding before their eyes, Eli knew deep within himself. This was not just another ordinary day, but rather one filled with endless possibilities, waiting patiently around every corner, ready, eagerly awaiting discovery. A sense deeply profound peace settled within him, knowing whatever challenges might come their way moving forward would always be met head-on, courageously, confidently, together, forevermore, united, boundlessly strong, unwavering, resilient, unbreakable through thick, thin, better, worse highs, lows, ups, downs, twists, turns, unexpected surprises. Life inevitably threw curveballs, ultimately making journey worthwhile, cherishing each precious moment shared loved ones, friends, colleagues, acquaintances, strangers alike, embracing wholeheartedly. Joys, sorrows, triumphs, failures, victories, defeats, growth, transformation, evolution continually, striving toward brighter future, hopeful, filled, abundant opportunities, boundless potential, limitless dreams, achievable goals, aspirations, realizable ambitions, heartfelt desires, innermost wishes, fervently cherished, unwaveringly, pursued, diligently, persistently, passionately, relentlessly driven, motivated, inspired, encouraged, uplifted, supported, nurtured, guided, loved, wholeheartedly, unconditionally, eternally, blessed beyond measure, grace, mercy, divine providence, endlessly, bountiful blessings, bestowed generously, lovingly, graciously, abundantly, joyfully, gratefully, humbly, reverently appreciated, celebrated, honored, cherished, remembered forever, timelessly, enduring everlasting legacy, leaving lasting impact generations come, fond memories, etched hearts, minds, souls, indelibly, permanently, forevermore cherished, lovingly remembered, faithfully honored, gratefully appreciated, eternally blessed. As morning sun rose higher, sky illuminating world below vibrant hues, warmth radiating gently, caressing faces, welcoming new day, dawning, hope, promise, endless possibilities unfolding before very eyes, embracing wholeheartedly joys, challenges, triumphs, trials, tribulations, life inevitably brought forth, journey continued, beautifully, gracefully, harmoniously intertwined, shared, lovingly treasured moments, precious, invaluable beyond compare, eternally cherished, remembered faithfully, honored, celebrated, gratefully, appreciated, deeply, profoundly, impactful, meaningful, purposeful, fulfilling, richly, rewarding, inspiring, uplifting, empowering, motivating, encouraging, guiding, nurturing, supporting, loving, endlessly, unconditionally, abundantly blessed beyond measure, grace, mercy, divine, providence, boundlessly bountiful blessings, bestowed generously, lovingly, graciously, joyfully, gratefully, humbly, reverently cherished, celebrated, honored, remembered, timelessly, enduring, everlasting legacy, leaving lasting impact. Generations come fond, memories etched hearts, minds, souls, indelibly, permanently, forevermore cherished, lovingly, remembered, faithfully, honored, gratefully, appreciated, eternally blessed. And so began Another chapter. Beautifully woven tapestry, life's intricate, complex, multifaceted interconnectedness journey. Continued forward, ever upward, onward, embracing fully joys, challenges, triumphs, trials, tribulations, bringing forth growth, transformation, evolution, enlightenment, fulfillment, purpose, meaning, richness, depth, profound beauty, indescribable words, infinitely precious moments, shared loved ones, friends, colleagues, acquaintances, strangers alike, deeply, profoundly impacting, touching hearts, minds, souls, eternally inspiring, uplifting, encouraging, guiding, nurturing, supporting, loving, endlessly, unconditionally, abundantly, blessed beyond measure, grace, mercy, divine providence, boundlessly, bountiful blessings, bestowed generously, lovingly, graciously, joyfully, gratefully, humbly, reverently cherished, celebrated, honored, remembered timelessly, enduring everlasting legacy, leaving lasting impact, generations come fond, memories etched, hearts, minds, souls, indelibly, permanently, forevermore cherished, lovingly, remembered, faithfully honored, gratefully appreciated, eternally blessed. What would you do if you were in their place? Comment your answer below and let's see how you'd rewrite the ending. If you thought this was just the beginning, you're right. Click through and see where the story takes you next. If you enjoyed the story of Eli Morales, I handpicked the next story that you will enjoy. Please, don't miss this one. Click here to watch it.